Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Power Book 4 Force Season 1, Episode 7. This episode felt like we were sort of building towards a lot of stuff. I don't want to say it's a filler episode because I don't think that's fair, but I think it is an episode where it's sort of saying, there's this awesome thing down the road and we're building towards it, but you guys are going to have to be patient for a little while.
Yeah, it felt like there was a lot happening, but nothing was really moving anywhere for me. It wasn't my favorite episode, but there are some things that are starting to come together in this episode that I was like, okay, here we go. All right, we're getting there.
Yeah, and I think we had a few different fun little moments. I think the one good thing about there not being like that much action heavy, crazy stuff in this episode is just that I feel like they took a little bit of time with the characters. We
Yep.
got to have a very rare laugh within this world of chaos and violence. I do appreciate that.
Yep.
But before we go further, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are here every week talking about Power Book 4 Force, everything that's going on, the highs, the lows, and of course, all sorts of other great shows, including Killing Eve, The Blacklist, Snowfall, This Is Us. This is a very busy time at the channel here.
Also, follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV.
Okay, I just have a big question to just sort of start everything off.
Okay.
If you are thinking you're either going out and having dinner with somebody, it doesn't have to be in a romantic context or not, and Liliana is just like randomly there, do you just like get up and leave? Because I feel like I'm just like, okay, what is going on here?
I think it depends how much you like the person you're with.
I feel like Liliana was in like almost every scene in this episode, and I feel like she like hit like 8 3-pointers, and she was just firing on all cylinders here.
She absolutely was. She was just so good. And it was good to see her in all these sort of different types of roles. We saw her all dressed up at the beginning, going to the clubs, trying to move Dahlia around. We saw her, the scientist side of her, trying to figure out what's going on with Dahlia, how to make it, a less expensive product. We saw her out on the date with
Yeah.
the doc. We saw her, of course, continuing to build this friendship with Tommy. There's so many different layers to her. She is one of the absolute best characters on this show. They've done a lot of work developing her.
They have, and she is still one of the most pleasant surprises for me within this entire show. And I think the other thing that surprised me about this episode was how much Tommy kind of got me within my own feelings when he was sort of going on his speech about how he's never really had anything that was fully his, and that this Dahlia operation, as dangerous as it may be, it's something that feels like singularly important to him.
And that's where I'm starting to kind of get into the mechanics of it all. So we have 4 players that are all part of this Dahlia
Yes.
thing right now, but it's starting to become clear that not all of the players really need to be there, because Liliana is more than capable of just learning from the doc what
Yeah.
goes into this. They don't actually need her anymore. Like, even with the original version of Dahlia, they could have just forced the doctor to teach Liliana and be on their way with it. They don't need her. And now that she's created this less expensive version, even if she's like, hey, I'll see you guys tomorrow, Liliana's kind of like, we just don't need her anymore. I'm like, yes, that's right. You two can just be the Walter White and Jesse Pinkman
Yeah.
of the situation. You can just have Liliana learn how to make this, get rid of the doc. And you also don't need Claudia.
Oh
I'm
boy.
sorry. What is she bringing to the table anymore at this point? She's bringing, a bunch of women to be able to go out and start sort of giving these kisses to everybody and distributing the drug. Tommy can do that as well. He can find people that he can trust to go out and do this. I feel like Claudia is going to end up getting cut out of this.
She kind of needs to, because this is not Claudia's finest episode. Claudia was just a little bit messy here, all over the place, thinking that, okay, I can do some stuff with Vic. I can sort of run some things my own way. I don't need to have everybody else involved in all of my sort of dealings. And it's just sort of like, since when Did you think, Claudia, that trying to get one over on Tommy or Liliana for whatever reason was going to work out for you?
Yeah, this is sort of where I hate to say Walter was right. Like, he really was when he was sort of saying, listen, daughter, I know you're trying to think that you're ready for everything and you're not ready to shoot anybody. We all know that she has, but she is really green when it comes to feet on the ground and really kind of understanding what she's doing when she's kind of trying to play around by introducing the drug to her brother with one of her girls. It's just she's playing a game that Tommy doesn't want to be a part of. He wants things to run smoothly,
Yeah.
and she's too much of a I want to prove myself because I've been under daddy's thumb too long. I want to run my own thing and I want to do whatever I want whenever I want it. Like Claudia for Tommy needs to go. He doesn't need her. And I say that as someone who likes the chaos of Claudia.
Claudia's gonna have some chaos now because it's basically like, all right, Claudia, well, congratulations, you did your own thing. Tommy has now killed two of Walter's people. You guys gotta go and take them out into the woods. And I know Claudia's like, all right, whatever needs to be done is done. So, okay, that's great for you right now until this all inevitably traces back to you, and then you were in really big trouble.
The biggest question that I'm still having with this drug is how does it work? Like, I was really
Yes.
watching this episode because there was a lot of transfer of the drug here in this episode. So at first I was like, okay, maybe it's just women's lips it doesn't work on. But then I saw women kissing women. I'm like, okay, well, that's not it. Then I thought, okay, they're only putting on their bottom lip
Yeah.
and then they're kissing a top lip. I'm like, maybe that's it. Maybe it doesn't go through the bottom lip for whatever reason. Nope, that's not it either, because we saw the girl that was kissing Vic put it on all of her lip and nothing happened to her. And I'm starting to not understand why the people who are putting it on their lips are not being affected by the drug, but it is when it's transferred. I think there just needs to be just a line of dialogue or something in there that explains that, because it just feels like magic at this point that it's going through one person's lips and not another.
I I tried to come up with a theory for this during the episode. It is incredibly stupid, so brace yourselves,
All
everyone.
right.
Is it possible that whoever is putting this on their lips, that it's something where it hits you when you breathe in? And with that in mind, they're putting it on their lips and then they're just holding their breath until they like pass it on to
Oh boy.
somebody else. But yeah, this is the problem with this, is that at some point you're going to see somebody with like Dahlia on their lips just like passing out because they've been holding their breath for too long.
Yeah, especially since these women are seemingly working people all night long. So
Yeah.
if they're putting it on their lips over and over and over again, eventually they would have a problem.
Like, this is just another sort of big issue, is that I know this is going to come as a surprise to a lot of people out there, but I can't relate to almost anything in this show. Like, I cannot relate to the drug trade. I cannot relate to going to loud and noisy clubs. I do not believe I have gone to such a club in over 10 years. Like, I don't understand how any of this works. So for me, from like just a total outsider, this entire world, this Dahlia drug feels like almost a little sci-fi, and I'm still like having a hard time sort of wrapping my head around that, because Power itself felt so grounded and felt so
Mhm.
intense, and it's like, here is this thing now that I really don't understand at all, and it feels a lot like you could tell me that like Martians crafted this and like sent it down to Earth, and I would be able to buy that just as much as anything.
No, I agree. The drug specifically does feel a little sci-fi just because it's like it doesn't affect the person wearing it, but it only affects the other person. Like it doesn't make any sense. I would love them just to add just a little piece of
Yeah.
dialogue in here of how they're getting around it. That maybe the girls are wearing some sort of like lipstick or something that's a bit of a shield from it. Something.
Now, Tommy, at least we had a good sense in this episode of what his plan is. That he's just like, all right, I understand that this is sort of like the designer model here, but then we're just appealing to like the 1% of the 1% in Chicago. We got to get rid of the glow in the dark mechanisms. We got to throw out all the gimmicks. We got to like get this out there to the common person. He sees this as a way to just produce all this insane money in the city. And he's probably right. But I think the trade-off, as we started to see with other characters in this episode, is everyone is going to want to have a part of this.
Yeah, some of the mistakes that are starting to come out here is that, Jenard now knows about it. Diamond now knows about it. Vic now knows about it. And I know some of it is, Claudia is doing with Vic, where she's kind of like, I want everyone to know. I want my family to know that I'm the person that's behind this. They'll figure it out. And they're going to be like, good job, Claudia, which is not what she's going to get. She's not going to get that pat on the back. She's going to get told off by Walter. She's probably going to get taken over by Vic. Like, it's just not going to work out the way that she wants. And I think on the other side of things, there was no way for that woman to know that Jenard was, Diamond's brother. I mean, maybe she knew, maybe she didn't. Maybe she's just like, hey, my job is to get this out here to anybody who wants to take it, kind of thing. But I think that conversation with Tommy and Diamond, when Diamond was like, listen, what is this? Do you know what this is? I think you know what this is. And Tommy's just like, meh. I don't really know. I mean, I kind of heard things. I was just like, okay, I don't think anybody believes you, Tommy.
Tommy is really going here by like just plausible deniability, and I think he's really hoping that like nobody in his inner circle ever says anything to Diamond about this.
Diamond is too smart for this. I mean, I know he's getting snowed over by that journalist at the moment, but he's smarter than this.
Yeah, and I still think this journalist thing, I mean, we're clearly hitting a bump in the road here anyway, and this Adrian person apparently thought that like she was going undercover, if you will, as a part of like a larger story, and now she's being told, oh, Diamond is the whole story. And I think we're kind of getting into this weird, almost sort of like tragic Romeo and Juliet sort of situation here, where she's clearly like developing some sort of feelings for her interview subject, and she doesn't want to be in this compromised position.
Then she can get herself out of it. She can just go to Diamond at this point, be like, listen, we're going to have an honest talk here. This is what was going on. However, I ended up developing these feelings. I know you feel them too. Like, they're at a point, I think, in their relationship that she can just come to him. Yeah, it's a lie. Yeah, it's going to suck. Yeah, it started off on not the greatest of situations. But I feel like they've kind of built past that to a point that it's early enough if she comes to him and she gives him the whole story and be like, now they're telling me I need to do this, but I'm not legally obligated to continue on with this. It's not like she's some sort of CI or working for the police. She's a journalist. Put the pen down. Just go and talk to him and find another way around it so that nobody can get the story. She doesn't have to continue. And if she tells him the truth, then nobody can get to the story. However, for me, this is one of the weaker plot lines that's going on. I feel like I'm more invested in what is going on with Diamond and Jenard and sort of the breakdown of how each of them see things going on in CBI. And, we saw the sort of Shark Tank go on, and then we saw the new drug come in, and they're just not seeing eye to eye. And seeing it from a business perspective, seeing it from family and brothers, I am way more invested in that than the journalist undercover trying to get a story, where it's kind of like, we've seen that on other shows.
Yeah, I think we've probably seen that a million times. And the only big takeaway I have from it is just, I feel a lot for Diamond. Diamond is having like a rougher go than anybody on this show. I mean, he's getting snowed over by this woman. He's not in agreement with his brother, who's basically overtaken his whole business. He was in prison for an incredibly long period of time.
Yeah, and nobody is really seeing it from his perspective, which is a very clear perspective. And he said it very plainly to his brother, where he's just like, I don't want to go back to jail.
Yeah.
And this is the way that doesn't happen. Like, good for you that you feel more ambitious and whatever, because you haven't been there. So you don't understand it from my side of things. So I want to continue the course.
I just feel like Diamond at some point, he needs to find like an actual ally. And he's one of the most adrift characters on the show right now. And it felt like he and Tommy kind of had something going at one point, but I'm guessing when your brother is Jenard and there's all that sort of tension there, and nothing ever stays that good for that long.
And then we've got Jenard, who has tried to push DMAC again into
Yes.
finding out where Tommy is. He decides to go to Tommy and warn him that someone's coming after him, which makes sense to all of us because we all know that his dad is JP and that he
Yeah.
has seen Tommy talking to him. And, you know, Tommy's his uncle. I don't know how much he really knows that, but he might suspect something. But he's just kind of like, listen, this is coming up. Why are you telling me? I don't know. I'm just like, oh man, D-Mac, you just need to like, you need to tell somebody what is really going on here because I am itching for that story to start playing out.
I feel a lot for DMAC too because
I just like that story and I like DMAC.
He's a really interesting character who's kind of just getting screwed around in a number of different ways now. We saw him being sort of left out in this episode. He obviously does have some level of care that he's not even really willing to admit to himself. And so this is just, it's obviously going to be a journey for him because I think he's been hurt so many times that he just probably doesn't know how to say anything or how to even trust anyone anymore.
Yeah, and he doesn't even really realize that him and his father have like such a deep connection that way because he didn't have his father there. And then JP is now like, I want to meet Kate. We should bring Kate in. Things are happening with Miriam, you know, let's call Kate. And Tommy's just like, no, we're not doing that. Like, you don't know her. And JP's like, right. I don't know her and she's my mother and good or bad or whatever, I need to know.
I think I could understand a lot of people online being very annoyed with JP after this episode just from the standpoint of, oh, you know, we know that Kate is the worst, Kate abandoned him and all this other sort of stuff. And I think because we've been on this journey with Tommy, it's so easy to be like, what the bleep are you doing, JP? Get out of here with this nonsense. But I do think there's something to his point of view where he's probably spent the entirety of his life like looking for some sort of answers and trying to get a better understanding of who he really is. And there is this opportunity. Now, Tommy is also right that if Kate ever comes to Chicago, it is just going to be such a bona fide disaster that I can't even put into words what it's going to be like.
Yeah, but JP has the right to know that. I think anybody out there that didn't have a good relationship with their mom or dad, or they kind of got, you know, left behind or abandoned or neglected, and you want some answers, good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. I think that this story is going to be really relatable to people that are like, man, I didn't really know my dad. I didn't really know my mom. I get where he's coming from, that he just doesn't know.
Here's one thing I am very much in on in this episode. I am in on the head of the Gary, Indiana drug organization in his glass eye. Just like, give me like a random head of a city drug organization and give me like a awesome look for a character. I want more of that guy on the show.
That's because you be relating here, you know.
Me and him, we have the one eye connection. I mean, I don't have a glass eye, but you know, I'm blind and what. But you know what? That is probably the only thing that me and this guy have in common.
Well, it was cool to meet him. I think he's going to be a really interesting character. I mean, even when Jenard was poking fun at his eye, and he just kind of just was like, guess what? You're not the first person to hear this. It's sort of like, and I thought of you too, because that happens to you as well, that people will poke fun at your eyesight and whatever, and you're just like, I'm 35 years old. I have heard it all. Do you think you're the first person at the table with this?
Yeah.
And I sort of got that same feeling from him too, where he's just like, okay, ha. You know, I've heard it all. What else do you have? Either come here with a deal or, you know, get out.
I feel like that guy probably handles the confrontations a little bit differently than I do, but I understand you. I see you. I hope you're not just the one episode thing.
Yeah, me too. He's pretty interesting so far. We only got a little glimpse of it, but the real sort of meat of it is that he's like, hey, are you here on behalf of CBI? No, I'm on behalf of myself. So we know that Jenard has a couple times this episode kind of been like, I'm doing what I want. I'm going behind Diamond's back, and people being like, okay, are you worried he's going to find out? No. Why are you not worried? Like, Jenard is really going off in this direction. I'm just like, I don't know.
Things going to get nuts. That's the whole feeling I get after this episode. It's just like Claudia has stepped in it big time. Tommy's like walking this
Yeah.
incredibly tight rope. Vic, who the heck knows what's going to happen with him? He's just in his feelings the whole episode.
Yeah, we saw that Gloria did decide to. I don't know if she took any of the deals or not. It
Yeah.
doesn't really seem like it. And she kind of just woke up, and it's the same problem that they've been having, where she's just. I feel hurt all the time. I'm in love, but I'm hurting. I'm hurting. Like, I can never really just be happy and be with you. So, like, I gotta go.
It's Vic's having a tough time. Like that's just my only real takeaway from him this whole story. But we'll see where these final few episodes this season goes. I mean, we didn't have some big, huge revelation here. We're clearly building towards something.
Yep.
So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other reviews we've got coming up. Follow us on Instagram at Matt and Jess TV, and we will see you here next time.